I'm Josh Sigman.
And I'm Brynn Rouse.
I'm a mortgage guy with a passion for money, business, and elevating my game. Brynn is my co-host. She's my friend and marketing director for my mortgage team.
That's right. I'm a marketing girl, a mama of 3, and wife of 1. And like Josh, elevating life, business, and relationships, well, it's my jam.
This season's topic, elevate your game.
What do you want?
Do you want to push personal limits, find joy, be more present?
Be a better parent, have a sexier marriage, make more money, save more money, start your own business, develop a hobby, or strengthen important relationships?
Impact the world, be a better boss, or create a stronger business? Then you are ready to elevate.
And this is the place to do it.
Are you ready? Sigman Sense Season 3, elevate your game.
So let's switch gears a little bit then. So y'all want to talk about like the most rewarding parts that y'all have felt through your career, or do you want to go for the
That
down
sounds
and
like
dirty?
you want the good news or the bad news first. Like that's what I'm hearing.
Well, I'm going to make the decision for you. Let's talk about the mud. Let's talk about the muddy waters. Let's talk about like.
Cool. I think most of them are the same answer, by the way. For me.
So the most hardest things often become the most rewarding.
For me personally, I'm not gonna speak for Niki. For me personally, the most rewarding part of owning a business is people, and the most difficult thing about owning a business is people. So I can explain both at the same time. By having people work for me, I get time. Like the trade-off is, yes, I get to pay them. Mm-hmm. That's a negative. I've got to spend money. And a lot of people have that struggle of who's my first employee.
Like, how hard was it for you?
I was told I had to. That was my first homework assignment. In my coaching program.
That was the first time you hired a person?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like my first person I hired was Sigman, and it's because I left the summit and they said that I couldn't be a student if I didn't have somebody working for me. So I hired Sigman, and she was awesome. And do you know the story about like how I learned how to not micromanage? Okay, so I hired her because I had to, and I didn't really want her because I didn't need her because I could do everything myself.
Of course, you find her and shake her hand.
You really need to. Literally. So this is what happened. I would hand her something. I would stand behind her and watch her do it.
Oh, that's great.
And I did this for like 2 weeks, right? Maybe 3. And Sigman, I really hope she gets to hear this one because I owe her a lot. And so thank you, Sigman. So anyways, I remember this one time I hand her something. I'm literally watching her do DU or whatever. And she looks over her shoulder. She's like 5'0". And I'm not, I'm like 6'5". And she literally stands up and physically pushes me away. It's like, why did you hire me? Leave me alone.
It.
And I literally was like,
away from me.
But I'm your boss. You can't shove me. Like in my mind, that's like, it was total like warped mindset.
That's awesome.
So I remember that after that I was like, okay, no, you're right. And so I walked off, and then she was doing her work, and I walked up behind her from like 10 feet away, and I was watching her.
And this
through the
happened
window for like 2 or 3 weeks. I was sick in the head for a solid month. There was not one thing that she did that I wasn't like literally watching from afar. And going back to the answer.
So it sounds like for you it was
positives.
harder. The relinquish of control was harder than parting with the money.
Well, it changes over time, right? So early on, it was the cost of paying somebody to do something that I could do. That was a negative. Like it was hard for me. The positive was I learned that I could leverage my time, get more time. I could spend it doing things I love doing or with the people I want to do things with, right? Then all of a sudden, going back to the money piece, now I get off on people making more money. Like I get off on watching successes of people in our organization. I get off on having tenured employees or people that are able to pay for their kids to go to college when they couldn't 10 years ago. Yeah. All those things are, yes, that cost me money, but my God, the reward is amazing, right?
Yeah. And you wouldn't have that if you didn't have the people.
Right, absolutely. And then you go back on the flip side of the pain is, and then that same tenured employee quits. And so all this time, energy,
and they don't
money,
just quit.
love.
They leave you and they go work for somebody else.
Typically your competitor because you train them the best in your industry, right? Yeah. I had this one lady that I love that was running my team for 7 years. And I thought she was going to take it over. So I poured my heart into her to make that work. And then the week before COVID, she left. I was like, so going back to good and bad, like, the highs and lows. How about this? You start the personal responsibility that comes with the employment of a couple hundred people is one thing. especially if all businesses are growing or dying. And yes, they are still impacted by outside forces. COVID positively impacted housing and lending, right? The recent turn down because of rates going up has negatively impacted. So we had to lay some people off at our company, and it's just pulls at your heart and like kills you, right?
Yeah.
So going through that is absolutely painful and horrible. And then the flip side is that, you know, then all of a sudden you push through it and you get to call people back up like we did literally in the last 30 days and hire back people that you had to let go, and they come back running because you took care of them in the first place. So,
and it was also though, like, so that was what triggered us.
Oh yeah.
That was our, that was our gut punch. That's when we said, okay, enough. Like,
I remember this. I remember literally sitting down with Niki. I've got to make sure people catch up on this. I'm sitting down with Niki, and our company got gut punched as hard as you can get. And we were literally looking at this like, well, this is the options are, this is it. Let's go ahead and fold up, camp, leave, go do our, move on. Like, it was a good run. That was an option. And literally we had this.
So we're going there.
Right. Oh yeah. This is,
we're going there.
That was an option. And the second option was shit. Like, I'm not done yet.
Which for me, like, I started chuckling because that to me just seems completely effing bizarre. Like that would be an option.
Dude, I tell you go to weird places.
I know. Like,
okay, well, and it's not like, to give it a little bit of context too, when you're looking at it as, it's not, we were going to pack up and go home and be done. We were going to redo it because when you look at something and the only way to save it is to kill it, then it's different. It's not quitting. It's, hey, this is it.
Cut the arm off.
We're cutting the arm off to save the body. And that's a real thing. And people don't, like, that's why I was thinking about, like, this is a side note, but I was thinking about, man, what would take me out? Like, what would truly take me out? I can't come up with anything.
That's why it was comical to me. It's
that to me,
funny.
But that
y'all
wasn't
would think that,
quitting, though. Right. That was admitting this is finished and restarting. That's not quitting. That's continuing the run with a different design, right? Yeah. And but we decided, like, hey, this is like super. Yeah, let's, you know what? Well, you know what we decided? We were like, hey, look, let's be clear. If we drown, I'm doing it with a lung, like, all my lungs are going to be loaded with water because I'm going to be screaming my ass off the whole way down, right? Like, I'm not drowning while I'm holding my breath, you know? Like, I'm not going down like a bitch. I'm going down screaming, fighting, choking, on fire, everything. Like, exactly and then, right. You know what? Nobody could say, myself included, like, hey,
didn't give it everything.
There was any question that I was, like, fully bought in. And that was a shift. And that wouldn't have happened had we not lost. I mean, there were a couple of key people that we were not that we weren't heartbroken over the other ones, but it was a couple of times, and it was the last one, because then we were into the long-term A players, like, you know, there's a point where you, like, flip a coin, you know, and that's, and it didn't matter or make it any better that everybody else was going through it, because we were different. And it happened on our watch, and literally my response was, shame on us. I was so
I remember that email
upset.
That you sent.
Like, I just thought, like, this is, we knew,
by the
and
way,
we were complacent.
I'll tell you, that's a negative too, right? Negative and positive, but in that moment, it's a negative. It's like, the truth is, it's on you. Like, you can't, like, when you're a business owner, right, wrong, indifferent, good, bad, or ugly, wins and losses, it is on you. And if you can't accept that, you're screwed and you're a shitty leader.
Well, and you share the wins and you hold the losses.
And the losses are yours.
Like, because you can't take the win. It's the whole team.
There was a period of time, man, for about 3 weeks. It was a good 3 weeks that I was thinking, was like, and this person we had to let go. Oh my God. And this person we had to let go. And I don't think of it like that. I think like a family tree. You let one person go, there's 4 people in that family on average, right? So it's like, I just remember that grueling process. But out of that, I think which was really fun and cool is the benefit of being a owner or, you know, the leader, or self-employed is fine, whatever it means to you, is, well, shit, that didn't work. What are we going to do next? And then it gets into the most fun part, I think, is the vision casting.
Yeah.
Like, well, there's a problem. There's a sets of parameters. This is the problem. There's a problem set. There is a solution.
Yeah.
So what's the solution? What are solutions? What's the best solution? And then we just start dreaming cool shit up.
Yep.
And then you say, well, who else would be fun to fight alongside of us? And you pull this
Who
one
else
person
fits
into
this?
you pull this one person in the conversation, you pull this person in the conversation, and suddenly it gets that momentum. And then you get to look back just a short time later. Like the impossible mountain to climb is over after about 15 hours, was my experience at the Grand Canyon. Impossible. And then it was over, right? And I feel like that's a really cool piece of being in charge and being able to dictate change, or at least affect change, is, you can really move mountains quickly. Like, I think it's super fun.
So it's like it's the hardest part is that it's all on your shoulders, in a sense. And that's
thank
also
God I'm the driving wheel.
and thank God that it's all on my shoulders, because
I don't wanna get in the car.
can affect
because
the
I have
change.
this grandiose ego that says there's no better shoulders than mine to carry this, right? Like,
Right.
I'm the warrior.
Yeah.
Well, and so for me, and it's like mine ties into like what you said at the end, the best part of this for me is that I have no doubt. I have proof. Daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, over the last 2 decades. I have 2 decades worth of proof that when I set a vision and make a plan and then create a system of accountability, I literally have
Always hit it.
accomplished all of it. There is nothing that I want right now that I do not have. And that is so, like, that's not exclusive to me.
Yep.
But it's so big and so terrifying, and it requires such accountability whenever and responsibility when you realize that. Now you have to go dream big shit up. You have a responsibility to your creator, to the other people out there, to anybody watching, to anybody who could participate, that if you know, hey, I can do anything that I set out to do, you have to go do it. And then you have to bring other people in, and you have to show them, hey, you can do this too. And then that energy, it's scary, but it's also, when you think about the impact that you could have across politics, charitable organizations, business, families, even like down to the families that we help, that we put in houses, and the appraisers that we employ, and the inspectors that even all of them too. But when you think about the level of true impact that can have when you have intentional people working toward the same vision with laser focus, and like, it's not all on one person now. So now you're harnessing the power and the energy of the sun, because you have all these people and all these different things that they're great at, but they are all great at perseverance, and they're all great at focus, and they're all, even though individually they're different, you pull all those people together, you start moving toward one and like desired result. It's unstoppable.
It's not work anymore.
It's not work anymore. It's like we're already at that place. And so for me, that is the best part, is that, like, there's all this stuff. Like, you talk about the hierarchy of motivation. I believe that. I'm huge on it. I think that the most that you're ever, I actually see it as like, yes, I'm not discounting the dude that created the hierarchy of motivation. He's a big dude. He's super smart, right? But for me, I almost see it like there's 3 levels of success, right? Like, the first one is survival, right? And when I say, I'm speaking specific to self-employed, 100% commission, business, all that, right? You are never going to be easier to be motivated than when it's for survival.
You have no choice.
You have no choice.
Yep.
That's why I said it is necessity. Like, that's it. That is that's the barrier to entry.
Well,
is
how
necessity
those
of some
those
sense.
children come walking out of the jungle in Brazil?
They had
Because
to.
They didn't have a choice.
They
They
didn't
die
have to.
or they walk out
That
the
or
damn
die.
jungle.
And
That's
you
right.
know what? They didn't know any better.
Yep.
Is the truth.
That's very
They
true.
didn't realize the magnitude of what they were facing.
far they had to
And
go,
that's
yeah.
why they put like a rookie player in like a championship game. He didn't know any better. There's no pressure, right? When you once you know the pressure, you're all scred up. Like but your head doesn't
You
know
didn't
any
realize
better.
it cost all of us
Is
$1 billion in bonuses?
That's right. Thanks a lot, right? So, but like you've got that basic level, right? That's that level 1. That's the easiest it's ever going to be to be motivated, because you don't have to motivate yourself.
Yep.
It's survival. You will do whatever it takes. That's when you'll do truly whatever it takes, because you don't have a choice, right?
That's right.
Then it works. And so you get the reward is level 2, right? Level 2 is you got a little bit of money, you got a little nicer house, you got a little bit in reserves, and you
feel
are comfortable, right?
Yep.
Like the sheets are a little bit more comfortable. It tends to be like when you'll put on more weight, when you'll get like your relationship at home gets a little bit more complacent. That second spot, truthfully, is gross, but it is the reward for the first one. Is the truth.
Right.
And you also are like, you still have like PTSD from the first one, right? You're like, I don't want to go back to that.
The constant fear of losing it all is a common conversation.
and it's in. So I think that shows up again in 3. In 2, I think you're still like, you can't walk away, but you could maintain comfortably just fine, and you're tired. I think that's what most people think or misunderstand burnout. Right? Like don't get to burnout, or burnout. I don't know that it's real so much as you just stay in level 2 for too long. Like you're so tired from level 1, and you think that in order to grow, you have to go back to that place. And all you can think of is, you know, man, it was 15-hour days, and it was, I didn't see my kids, and I was miserable, and I was fighting with my wife, and I was drinking all the time. And, you know, and it's like, okay, but that's not like you just have like a negative emotion tied to that, right? If you can push, and hopefully level 2 feels gross. If you can push to level 3, then you see, so you look at these people, you look at Elon Musk, you look at, you know, Ed Milet or Andy Frisella, or these people who are in this level 3 space that they work, like they tie into that like level 1 motivation. And one of the ways that they do it is they have an innate fear that it's all going to go away. Even though they may have $1 billion, like in their mind, it could all go away. But there's also, they're chasing to changing the world. You know, Ed Milet's big on, hey, I want to share all this information. You know, he is huge on just sharing all of it. You know, purpose driven. Some of them just have this mindset of, hey, I have, and I kind of feel like this. Like I have an abundance mindset. I think there's plenty for all of us. I just want it all. Right? Like and that, like, I don't want you to suffer because I want it all. Yeah. I do believe that there's like plenty for everybody. I just want it all. Like more and more and more and more. And that level 3, and that you get, one of the ways to get to level 3 is by forcing yourself to get uncomfortable. So all of those people that are bored, or you know, they don't have vision, or they're so traumatized from like, oh, it was so big, especially in our business, right? Like 2020 or 2021, or maybe traumatized from something else, right? But just industry specific for us, they're traumatized from, oh my God, 2020 and 2021 wasn't real for me. Like, you know, now I'm going the other way. They're not making the same amount of money. And so they're just hiding behind like things that they're sick of, right? Like being bored, lack of transparency, no vision, all those things. You have to make a decision to get uncomfortable if you want to change it, and then recreate that, like, hey, that level 1 motivation, which for me is like, hey, I cannot, the idea of not building something, that maybe that's the only thing that would take me out, is not building something, because that's the worst thing I can think of.
You touched on 2-3 things that I want to kind of reiterate. I actually think the first one you said at the very, very beginning, and I don't want people to skip over it. I know we've talked about before, but the difference between complacency and contentment is so easily misunderstood and overused. People say all the time, I'm content. I don't want to grow because I'm happy. I don't need to do more because whether it's a fear of failure or just bored to shambles or whatever, often it's complacency. And the complacency piece is the fucking devil, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like there are so many people that I know that have such good lives outside looking in, but inside they're dying. Like
good
inside,
is, what do they say? Like good
right.
is the death of great.
That's right. That's
It absolutely is.
It absolutely is.
It sounds like that level 2 or level 2 that you're talking about is a very it's a crux spot that you can get lost in very, very easily.
Well,
But
I'll tell you what, though.
you have to go.
Yeah.
You can't skip it. Like
Right.
you
It's
have
a
to
very
experience.
important piece.
And if you don't hate it. And it's okay to stay in level 2. There's nothing wrong with it. It's comfortable. You're tired.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But if you feel like, if you start to feel gross, it's time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you gotta.
It's
you
really
gotta
funny. Like
kick
the
out of
first
it.
thing that came to mind with that is like the freshman 40. Like, right? Like you work so hard to, like, for people that chase college, work so hard just to get into college. And then, whew, fuck that. I'm not going to study anymore. I'm going to gain some weight. I'm going to get D's on everything, right? Just barely pass by. And then you wake up your sophomore year, you're like, well, shit. I'm about to fail out and I got to lose weight. Like, it's just that epiphany, but you got to process. You have the reward. Hey, I made it. Whee!
Yep.
But in business, I think it's the same way. So complacency versus contentment's the first thing I heard you say. I think it's super, super important. The second one is whether or not you are bored, be careful of who you're following. And that's something that stands out to me, right? So over the years, I've experienced the greatest parts of a business partner and the worst parts of a business partner because I've been effectively married to my business partner for 19 years now, right?
Yeah.
As long as my wife, 19 years. And I think that I think first of all, it's very rare to have a business partner for 19 years.
Oh, for sure.
When you look around. And now I love having multiple business partners.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that because what I've recognized over the years by seeing that is if you expect any man or woman to be perfect as a perfect boss, as a perfect partner, as a perfect for an infinite period of time, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Right? It's just not real. It's holding that that mentor on a pedestal that you and I have talked about off and on. If you hold somebody too high on a pedestal, they're eventually going to let you down, right?
Through no fault of their own.
To no fault. It's just
it
life.
was your fault. Well, and
Yeah.
it was your fault that you put them on the pedestal. Like
Yep.
they didn't tell you they were
That's right.
perfect.
That's
they
right.
didn't tell you they were never
Very
going to
true.
hurt you.
Very
Yep.
true.
You know, they didn't even know what the rules were.
They didn't know what was hurting you in the
They
first
didn't
place.
even know.
Yeah,
They didn't even know they
exactly.
hurt you afterwards.
Yeah.
Like it's silly.
And so what's really interesting though is when you apply that towards anyone working for a company for a long period of time and anyone that has been working for a good man or woman for a long period of time, like pay close attention to where they are in their cycle. Are they bored? Are they complacent? Because that shit's poison. And that going on for a long time is a problem. And if that problem's not dealt with, it does end in a demise of a relationship, of a company, of whatever.
Well, and it's rubbing off on you.
And it's rubbing off on you too.
Yeah.
And if you start looking, especially in our industry, when we look around again, look under the covers a little bit, all I see is a lot of dissatisfied, bored, visionless, empty bosses of companies because in our industry did so well for so long, fell back into that step 2, that middle cycle.
Yep.
And so
because they're not psycho.
Yeah.
They're not
Right,
psycho. And
right.
like that's what it takes. I love, you and I were talking about this last week. About a particular person, like a particular owner, and the person is psycho.
That's what I've been saying the whole time, and y'all have both avoided it the whole time.
But let me tell you this, though. Let me tell you the truth, though.
All those
I
screws
have
loose.
mad respect.
Of course.
For the psycho.
Yes.
Every single time, like we've run into something, I've called and I've been like, dude, this is good. Like I'm
is some sinister shit. I love it.
taking notes. Like this is
Yep.
fantastic. Even though this looks crazy on our side, what this person is saying, I will do anything not to lose people.
Yep.
I will do anything
I'll do
to
anything to
stay
win.
to win. And I will do like
Because basically there's one piece of bread in the middle of the prison and he's going to get that piece of fucking
he's going to
bread.
get the whole piece,
He's gonna
not
get it.
just like a bite or and
That's
that.
right.
But I love that. I mean, that is more fun
Yep.
than the alternative. That comfort place doesn't feel good.
It
doesn't
does not feel
actually
good.
feel
Oh
good.
my God.
It feels, you should feel like an imposter. Like it just doesn't feel good.
Yep.
And it could be, it's not just business. It's in your marriage. It's with your kids. It's with yourself. It's how you show up for things. Like for me, so, you talked about balance. For me, it's about obsession. Like the only thing is it's metered obsessions, right? So like I can only have so many, and I can only spend so much dedicated time in those obsessions. And that for me is balance. And I think it's fun. And so I get to, like I say, for me, it's more about like the being obsessed with my priorities. That's balance for me. And that means whatever it takes. So if that means, hey, it's a late night, or hey, it's, hey, there's one day where I say, hey, you know what, let's play hooky and take the kids out of school and go to Six Flags. Like that's whenever you feel like, hey, I've been going too hard in this one area. Okay, I'm going to check out and go do this over here. And then there's other
That's
times.
also a super fun reward too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, nothing makes me happier than one of my kids asking, "Can I stay home today?" And my
Yes, you can.
answer is, only you know that.
Go,
Only you
That's
know
right.
that. Like,
Go
can
get
you?
the thermometer.
Can you? Like,
get
I
the
don't know. Like,
thermometer. I'll check.
How are your grades? Like, have you taken care of all of your shit that you are responsible for? Like, if you've done it all, then yes.
Yeah.
Like, yes, take care of your stuff, do your things, and you can do whatever you want.
I agree.
It's a great reward. For,
This is your decision.
Yeah.
This is your consequence. It's up to you. 100%.
Yeah.
I love teaching. I mean, like,
That's my favorite answer to my son, by the way. Like Jim Reed, one of my best friends in the world, told me probably 6-7 years ago. He said, because I was yelling at my son about something. So if you don't like yellers, sorry, I'm a yeller sometimes. But I was yelling at my son. And he said, you know that when he turns 13, you can't yell at him anymore. And I said, really? He's like, yeah, because then he's going to be combative. He'll stop listening. And I promise you, you'll lose him. I said, okay. And that was 6 years ago. For whatever reason, that's one of the few things, not a few things. I remember a lot of things from Jim.
Yes,
But that's
funny
one of
what's-
the things that has stayed with me, period.
Mm-hmm.
My son just turned 13 just this year, this May. And I remember I was yelling at him like a day after about something stupid, just because I'm a dude. And then I heard Jim in my head. And I instantly stopped myself and I said exactly what Jim said to say. He said, look, dude, I wouldn't do it that way. Here's my recommendation. I hope you make the right decision. Good luck.
Yeah, you can do what you want.
I wouldn't do it that way. Here's my recommendation. I hope you make the right decision. Good luck. Hope it works out for you. And I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
But getting back to what we were talking about. So we were, the last piece of the puzzle that I was thinking about that you kind of resonated on is the obsession piece. You said something to me maybe, it was at least 6 months ago when we were talking about this whole rebirth. It might have been longer though. If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no.
yeah.
Right? Technically a fuck no.
I said F.
Yeah.
I said the
love
F
If
that.
word.
it's not a hell yes,
Didn't know if
it's
we
a
could
fuck
cuss
no.
on this thing.
Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
cuss a little bit. If
Yeah.
it's not a hell yes, it's a fuck no.
I call that fuck
think-
yeah energy, by the way. I
Yeah.
literally, it's titled, I got
Yeah.
like a
Like
whole section in my book on it.
I think that is such an important thing for everyone, regardless if you're employed or an employer,
I
to
totally
really
agree.
think about, because so often we get pulled into doing things that are good ideas, but not right now, or with people that you say yes to because you don't know how to say no. And when you limp in on anything, going back to what level 2 is, you're basically limping into life. You're limping in like half-assing, doing just enough to not get called out on it, doing just enough to not get fired, doing just enough to not get divorced, doing
I think
just
you fall
enough.
into routines too.
Right.
Like whatever routine you
Right.
fell into, like that was normal and level 1, right? Like whoever you're meeting with or however many appointments you're having, whatever your routines are, like you have to identify that it's okay to change those. And right now
Well,
it may not be a fuck yes.
Yeah.
So it really needs to be a fuck no
There
for a
has to be
minute.
no right now.
It
Yeah.
needs to be no so that you can.
And so
And you say no without explaining it, which all of us should practice more of, because it's more powerful, right?
I had a great example. I did it today, and it was so hard for me. I've got to tell you the story that like it blows my. So you'll figure out the name. A 17-year business relationship that I've got has an older son who's struggling, and he's just got out of college, And he called me up and said, Josh, I need you to coach my son. I'll pay you whatever you want for an hour a week for the next 12
You
weeks
just can't do it right now.
to literally just tell me what the check is. Guy has the means. And I like him as a business person. And he said, just do this for me. I just need to help him out. And I literally didn't respond for like 2 hours. And he texted back this last night and he said, hey man, like if you want to rearrange what that looks like. I was like, no, I'm thinking about my answer before I respond. So I called him back this morning and I said, look, here's the deal. Right now I am growing something awesome with my company. I am fighting like hell to stay a good dad and present with my wife and kids. I am sleeping 3 to 4 hours a night right now, which is just a season, but that's all I'm sleeping right now because I'm that far in, up to my elbows and eyeballs with something that I'm super excited about. I cannot agree to the hour as much as I want to. I said, but what I'm willing to do is if your son wants to, he's in a different city, a couple hours away. If your son wants to jump in a car and drive over here and follow me around all day, every day, he can stay here and he can follow me and he'll learn a lot of shit. And in between, I'll get my minute here, minute there to explain why I did something. He'll learn from that. That's what he needs to see.
Right.
But for me to set aside an hour, it's not about the money. I'm not going to bill you.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
but everything
Well, and
in
you
my
won't
heart,
be, you won't be
do it.
focused
in my heart, what
on
did I
it.
want to do?
Of course you wanted
Of
to
course
commit.
I wanted to say yes,
Yeah.
but it was not a hell yes.
Right.
So it had to be a no. And I think that's an excellent exercise for all of us.
Yes,
Before
it
you
is.
say yes to anything, just hold on a second,
Yeah.
think
But
it
just
through.
pause. Like
Yep.
actually just pause
Yep.
Yeah.
and think like, okay, is this, and that's why
Are you excited about what we're doing in our company?
oh my God. Like I can't even, I can't sit still on a regular basis.
I love the banter.
Yeah.
I'm getting off on just the banter
I
between
know.
people every day. It's just so fun.
The back and forth. Yeah. And but yeah, it's what it's right.
Yeah. That's right.
Like I am 100% clear that it is right. It's the right timing. It's the right thing.
Right people.
It's the right people.
Yep.
It's for the right reason. And I've never been more clear on anything business-wise that this is different.
That's why it's
And-
going to work, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why it's going to work. And I think you think through problems that are solved is what big badass businesses come out of, is when a problem is really solved.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you look at whether you like Tesla or not, electric cars is probably the way of the future long term. I love my diesel truck. Electric cars probably, based on the 108 fucking degrees of Texas today, it's
Golly,
probably the way
yeah.
of the future, right? Solves a problem. You go down to anything like delivery. I don't have time to go shop. Amazon will give it to you on your doorstep, right? I don't have time to cook. There's people that are solving the problem of making you a meal, delivering it to your house. You don't have to think. You just put it in your fridge and just eat it. When you solve a problem as a business owner, it's going to work.
Yeah.
Now the only question is, how fast do other companies try to copy you, and how successful are they at that? So
and at that point, does it matter?
at that point
It
doesn't
doesn't
matter.
matter.
that's
It-
why-
That's why FedEx, which is one company, except there's like lots of variations, is called FedEx.
Right.
There's only one FedEx, but yeah, you could use UPS too.
Yeah. Well, and it's also the difference too is when you're super clear on the vision, hey, and these are the problems that we're going to solve too, but hey, this is the number, and these are the people, and here's why, and these are the people, and these are the specific level of people, and so it literally becomes that's the thing. Like when you talk about like vision, plan, and accountability, the plan is key. Like people think that you'll be successful if you have a great plan. That's not true.
No.
It is deciding that you really want something,
Yep.
and like the vision and the desire behind it. That's what determines if you're successful. Because
Well,
you
the
just won't
accountability
stop.
defines the execution, and
Right.
whether you literally mean you're turning in homework to somebody for accountability, or you just don't lie to yourself.
Yeah.
Like the second one is the harder one of the two for most people.
Yep.
Myself included sometimes. Just don't lie to yourself. That's accountability.
Yeah.
If you say you're going to do something every single day because you said you're going to do it, you should just do it because why? You said you would.
Yeah.
For no other reason.
But
That's why.
the system of accountability too, like goes on even like it's even like building a team is a system of accountability because they're going to be there first thing the next morning. You've got a team meeting, like they're waiting for you, right? Everything that we do is really a support system. We're creating a system, and this is a business. This is business owners. You are creating a system, a support system that is like optimizes your operational, the support system is what. It's the optimization of your operating system, right? So like, let me give you an example. So when I think about this, I think about getting more efficient, right? So I think about this in terms of like narrow the focus, up the quality, increase the speed. That's a part of accountability, right? So like, okay, I'm going to figure out what I'm really great at like, hey, this is the one thing that, hey, I'm really excelling in this area. And then I'm gonna obsess about improving it all the time or revamping it, solving problems. And then the increasing the speed is, okay, now I'm gonna dig in and figure out what's working so that I can max it out, right? And that accountability piece, like people think that it's coaching or accountability is telling your spouse what time you're gonna be home, right? Like accountability is committing to, hey, we're going to go see a movie at 6:15, right? Like and people don't do that. And when you sacrifice one of those, then it'll be another one and then another one and then another one. And that whole operating system now starts to shake. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And so when you're thinking about like all of these things that you're doing, like, hey, am I going to be true to myself, right? Like I'm going to be honest with myself about, am I doing the hard things? Did I make my bed this morning? Whatever it is, right? You've got to look at even just one thing that you get off on, that you give yourself a pass on. Like it's not just that one thing. All you have to do is break
the one rule and then the rest start.
That's right. Like it's not. Yeah. And so to me, like what we're talking about and what we're building is, it's not to remove the pressure, it's to max it out. Like we talk about it and it's like, hey, if you think about it, yes, not just one person is carrying the load, but the truth is we're maxing out our accountability.
That's right.
That's what we're doing.
That's right. And when you have other partners that are looking at you like,
they're looking at you.
Why aren't you doing your shit?
That's what people think. Like, oh, you're spreading out the responsibility. Yes, it's not all on one person, and you also acknowledge like you reach a point in your career, and I think you go one way or the other. You go the psycho route that a lot of times comes with just an individual too, or you go the other route and say, hey, okay, I'm psycho, and I am so obsessed with this goal and with what we want to do that I recognize that I have to bring in these other people to guarantee that we hit the mark, right?
Yep.
And then like also the additional accountability and everything
or
else.
Quit.
Yeah,
or quit. I'll tell you this much. One thing that really helped me make the choice, like the flip to, I was gearing down, it felt like, to, gear back up, is if I ever go out, it will not be on the bottom.
No.
It'll be on top. Like, I love the idea of win a championship, fucking peace out, motherfuckers.
Except that you won't.
Except that I won't.
You don't.
Right?
It doesn't work that way.
Right. I totally understand that. I love the idea of it. And so.
You love the idea of it, yeah.
But I was trying to find, like, how do you find that extra gear? And that was one little thing that worked for me. It's like, okay, well, what would you tell your son is something, or what would you tell your daughters? I said to myself all the time. It's like, okay, you're having a little pity party. Yeah. What would you tell your daughter? Mm-hmm. Like, go sit in the room and cry, or to like, okay, let's like go find another dude.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to tell them?
Especially in the relationships, right? Like, do we both agree that you're going to feel better at some point?
100%.
And then yes, okay, cool. Let's just start now.
Let's just go ahead and get there.
Let's just start now. Right?
Oh, I like that one.
You're gonna, like, you agree, like, you're gonna feel better eventually, right?
Yeah.
Let's just do it now. Right?
I love it.
There now.
Well, y'all are both very very good at what you do. And I admire both of y'all for lots and lots and lots of reasons, a lot of different reasons individually. And y'all have really navigated legacy as a whole very well. And specifically through this crazy turn of events. So kudos to you both, because I know it's not easy and it is scary. I don't know if we actually went through the mud. I think we did go through the mud talk,
I don't think we're done, yeah.
But y'all definitely put a positive spin on it, which is what tells us that
I think it goes back to belief system.
The right space.
If you believe in it enough, you'll figure it out. Like the mud's worth it. The mud is not. That's a stumbling part, and it's got to be acknowledged and dealt with.
Well, it's just part of the process.
It's just part of the process.
Like you cannot do anything that you continue to go up.
Yeah.
And it's not like
every step you're learning something new, which means you're gonna fail a lot.
That's exactly right.
And that's part of the process.
And you can't if you're not seeking things that you could fail at and failing, you're like that is going to decimate you when you actually do. And so like you don't even want that. You want opportunities where you're going to get crushed. And the truth is like it's not like, I mean, you get to the top of enough mountains, like that shit all looks the same after over the top of the mountain. That's the biggest disappointment is that it's just more mountains on the other side of the mountain.